Should we be wearing the X39 during the day or during the night, or is one better than the other?
You know, we don't know yet. When we've done our studies, everyone wears the patch during the day. And so we haven't determined yet whether or not it's better to use it during the day or night. What we know is that it's incredibly effective during the day. Whether or not someone might benefit more at night, we don't know yet. But we do know it's incredibly effective during the day.
Of X39 works. And is it a frequency technology, or is it a light technology, or what is the difference?
Now, the difference, though, between LifeWave and frequency medicine, I suppose, is often thought of as we have, let's say, an electrical signal we're putting into the body, we're using magnetic therapy, and we're treating the body with a specific frequency. And I have over 70 patents on this, so I know the field pretty well, and we've put quite a bit of time into it. And there is quite a bit of good that can come out of frequency-based medicine, but like anything else, it's all a matter of how you do it, and there's some really good products that are out there. What's really different about LifeWave is that, and here's a way to describe it, is that if we turn on the radio, I don't know if anybody uses radio anymore, but if they do, the reason why we can hear a sound is because there's a wave that's being transmitted, and the wave is encoded with information. Now, in frequency medicine, if we want to refer to it that way, we might put a sine wave into the body, and the sine wave or square wave is repeating at a certain frequencies, and that's it. Now, in the example with radio, that's like LifeWave. What we're doing is blending different wavelengths of light so they can be encoded with information that the body can interpret. And so if we were just to stimulate the body with light, we couldn't elevate copper peptide, we couldn't elevate glutathione or carnosine or anything that any of our products do. So the real benefit behind the technology is that we can use very, very low levels of light that are encoded with information to cause the body to produce these very specific biochemical changes. And of course, we just had a clinical study published using blood data, you know, gold standard, in a 60-person double-blind placebo-controlled study where we measure the blood, and sure enough, stimulating with X39, we show statistically significant increases in copper peptide. So the way the technology is working, we stimulate the body with different wavelengths of light, and this leads to very beneficial changes in the biochemistry of the body.
Okay. And so with the X39, we're stimulating it with light, which is elevating the GHK, correct?
Right. Well, GHK and GHK-Cu.
Okay. And so the GHK is actually activating your stem cells and telling them to make more stem cells and to make the stem cells younger?
Yes. Yes. It was believed, and even up until recently, that you're born, you age, and then you die. And Dr. Picard made the observation, hey, if I take these old liver cells from someone that's 80 years old, and I incubate them in the blood from someone that's in their 20s, all of a sudden, those cells start to behave like younger cells. What's in the blood that's doing it? And he was eventually able to isolate it and find out that it was copper peptide.
Wow.
But the story didn't end there. A lot of times in the body, peptides have very, very specific powers. They have very specific functions. But what he was finding with copper peptide was that it had many different functions in the body, and its actions were not very consistent with what you would normally think of as being the behavior of a peptide. And so what he eventually discovered was that the reason why copper peptide was having all of these broad functions was because it was acting to reset the genes in our body to a more youthful state. And this was the real power of copper peptide, so that it wasn't just triggering one event, it was triggering multiple events by manipulating the genes in a very, very beneficial way. So the net end result is it will activate the P63 gene, and this causes the stem cells to mobilize. The stem cells are now functioning in a more youthful state, and they can do a better job at what they're supposed to do. But when you take copper peptide and you expose them to the stem cells in the skin, those stem cells revert to pluripotent stem cells, which are the universal cells. Those pluripotent cells now go into the blood, and they can be used to increase the total number of circulating stem cells so they can facilitate very rapid wound repair.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So to take, full advantage of this, we want to make sure that we get adequate amounts of protein, healthy fats. We want to make sure we get dietary copper, basically give the body the building blocks. That way, when you're using X39, you can optimize the results.
And the ages that they can be applied to. I think she's asking, is it okay for kids to use it, or are there any that we should be mindful of?
Yeah, so when we do our studies, they're generally on people over the age of 18. And because we do focus on age reversal, many people, when we do studies, those studies are people 40, 50 years and above. Now, that said, we certainly have members that have used the patches on children, and the general guidance that we've given is that those children should be old enough to talk where they can communicate any adverse events. So what would an adverse event be? About 1 in 10,000 people are allergic to the adhesive. So we use a hypoallergenic adhesive, medical grade, but still 1 in 10,000 people are allergic. So if you applied it to a child and they found that they were getting a reaction, it was itchy, they have to be old enough where they can communicate that and take that off. If anyone has a lot of toxins like mercury poisoning, then you apply a patch like the glutathione patch, and they could get nauseous, or an upset stomach, or fatigue, or a headache. And again, the child should be old enough to communicate that. So we generally would recommend child be 5, 6, 7 years old before you apply the patches. Of course, again, I'm not a medical doctor, so this would be, with doctor's permission.